What's up, everybody? This is BakaBites. I'm Frankfurter. That's Magically Average, and today with us we have SilverLobo himself. He has made a return. He's come to tear us a new asshole. Today we are going to be talking about Attack on Titan. Season 4 finally ended after 3 years of releases. We are going to discuss everything about the new specials, and then we are going to run down Season 4 as a whole, and then we're going to run down the whole series as a whole and give our opinions as to what the legacy we think it might leave and what we might rate it. So just to kind of hop into it, Lobo, I know you're a huge fan of Attack on Titan. You've, I believe,
Mhm,
read it on top of you are a weekly viewer as well. Just kind
mhm.
of briefly, like
Yep.
top level, what were your thoughts on the second special that just came out?
If we're just talking about the special itself and not the release schedule, about everything in general for Final Shape or for God, my
For the
mind,
final
final
season,
season,
part 3
final
special?
everything happening, I enjoyed it. I'm glad it's finally over. People are angry with it or unhappy with it or whatever. I'm fine with it. I understand certain issues, but it is what it is and it's different from the manga. Slightly.
That's what I've heard, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. Magically Average, top level thoughts. Lay it on us. What did you think top
I
level?
have so many more questions that have yet to be answered. Like, I've been able to put the pieces together, but
Hmm.
it's a really gross looking puzzle. Like,
Yeah,
I definitely forced some of those pieces together, even though I knew they didn't fit. But it was the only way I could make sense of things. So,
fair enough.
yeah.
My top level thoughts. This was better than Special One, which I thought was miserable. But this is only just a little bit better, in my opinion. Just top level. I enjoyed the ending. I think it was told very disjointedly, in my opinion. It was as you kind of said, it was kind of like forcing puzzle pieces together. I don't know if this was in accordance to the manga where they needed to finish it, or and like he just did a little bit of a rough job. I don't know if he was pushed to finish it, like, quicker, and if so, you can totally tell that it shows. But if this was like, hey, I just want to finish it, then you know what, I didn't mind the actual ending and its message, but I didn't like the journey to that message within the specials. So that's my top layer. Um, but Magically Average, you have a bunch of questions that have yet to be unanswered. We have a guy who specializes in this show, who loves this show, who has your answers. What are you confused about?
I,
Looking for
We're
the guy.
looking
that's a little.
around.
I was like,
Yeah,
ooh,
right. Yeah,
I
we're
don't
loading
know.
you up with questions, Lobo. But yeah, no, like, what were
Hello.
you still confused about?
It's not so much confusion. I think part of it is just frustration in the fact that there was a lot of pieces that seemed to have been like brought up in this last special that were never ever talked about or referred to or anything in like any of the previous seasons. It's more of like you had to put these pieces together to draw the connections. Like, okay, so like the one piece for me that stands out the most is, and FYI, we didn't say it, but spoilers abound for anyone who hasn't watched Attack on the latest, the final chapter
I'm
of
gonna
Attack
spoil
on
the
Titan.
shit out of this.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
downhill from here. Okay, so go watch it, or I don't know, whatever.
Pause, go
Don't.
watch it, come back,
Yeah,
and here you are. So, what were you confused about?
the again, it's not so much confusion. It is the frustration around how some of the sequences play out. So the part towards the end where Aaron is talking with Armin and they're kind of going through like when they were children to when they're older and they're
Okay.
like going through the different portions of just different landscapes. Some of them had connections to like previous events that they had experienced, but not all of them. And the implication is that Aaron did this in the past with everyone, like all of the Eldians that he could communicate through the paths at the one coordinate point that he is at being the founding titan. He's able to like draw in everyone and tell them his grandmaster plan. Okay, that part, cool. That makes sense. But at no point in any of the scenes where we see the paths are they able to like fabricate different realities and display that. Like, because the paths, they even say it like in the in the anime. I think in season 4, part 1. I want to say it's either that or the beginning of part 2, where Eren gets sniped by Gabby and then touches Zeke and they enter the paths for the first time. That's when we see it. Like, Zeke has this whole conversation about, oh, he went there originally when he got blown up by Levi and met Ymir, and it's like thousands of eternities past, but really it's like seconds in real time. But it's just this vast landscape that Ymir entered into when she first found the Titan power, and that was like the ancestral point of the paths being created, and then everything flowed from there on, which is why you have that big giant tree stream of light. But it's all sand, and the whole thing is like she's able to mold things out of the sand, and that's how she creates the colossal titans for way back when to build the walls for King Fritz. That's also how she's able to rebuild Zeke when he got blown to smithereens. That's also where Eren has the huge talk and speech and then convinces her to join his side, and then he gets the founding Titan power and gets to be not the founding Titan power, but he gets to start the rumbling as the big giant skeleton millipede thing, right? How the fuck then is he able to just go, well, I'm just going to create different realities and send you through all these different landscapes and times and pretend like this shit's happening and create these memories in your head that you're eventually going to see when I die, when that's never been established? Like that part infuriated me.
The thing with that is, for one, the area with the paths, the sand, Ymir, the giant golden tree, that is also a fabrication. That is something that she's molding, that she gives space to, that explains everything, explains her connection, explains all that crap, and what it is. It's a representation of what's going on, whether it's by her or something else, whatever. But who's to say he couldn't do that? Sure, it's cop-out answer, but the thing is also that with this, there's not kind of meant to be an answer that he has that power capability. It's just that it's giving their conversation a visual so you can enjoy it. Because otherwise, it's just the same thing of them talking. Because like when Armin got captured and he was suffocating to death and dying, he was yelling at a reflection of himself in nothingness. And then he took a good look around him and realized he was actually in the paths area. He was in the sand. That is just your own mind doing its own thing to fill in the blanks for you in this stressful time. He's fucking dying, dude. So the thing with him doing that is just, I need to tell you something. You showed me this book. You taught me about these things. The ocean and all that shit from season 1 all the way back then. He had a book all over the world. What's out there? No one believed him. Eren did. Eren enjoyed it. All of that was just a visual representation of, hey, you're my best friend. This is the things you talked about. Let's see it. It's legit just shit in his head, most likely. Just because they visualize something for you, that doesn't mean you can shit on it because that's not a power that is given. Because the thing is, otherwise this would just be them talking with nothing happening. Because just be them looking at each other. Why not give you visual representation of what's going on? Because then you get that beautiful scene of him looking down and understanding. You as the audience, that visual understanding, because he knows it. He's the character. He's lived through it. Visual understanding of this, all this blood is on me. And him in that blood, in that water full of blood, he pulls out the hair and the teeth and whatever.
The conch shell.
All of that is just like, it is just representation of this. This is just to explain the emotions and what's going on in each person's head, as well as giving you something to look at, because they're talking about things like, hey, here's this, here's that. And who's to say it's not like going through the memories of all the Eldians, since he has that connection now with the Ymir to do that power.
So to me,
Again, here's the thing. We don't know the answers because I'm pretty sure this isn't something that they talked about even in the manga. Because the thing is, the guy wrote it. I'm not going to be like, oh, that's a plot hole. That's a beautiful moment we can watch and appreciate because it's him legitimately, the only reason, giving his friend the ability to see all these things that he's read about and telling him everything because he deserves to know.
So in my initial criticisms that I had written down and I had posted about after a day later of kind of like analyzing in my mind and what this might be, I think to me the way I interpret that scene now is that I agree with you. I think it's kind of a little bit of a BS power where it just pops out of nowhere. It's fine. It is just what you said, Lobo. It is a visual representation. But to kind of further expand upon that, I think that them being in different places and different ages are the timelines that they've gone through. Kind of like how Mikasa was just like, they had the cabin on the hill and they
Right.
spent the rest of their years. That was like, hey, I'm going to give you this memory. But it's like for Armin, it's like, hey, I'm having this conversation with you in all of these different timelines. So they're splicing the timelines together
Yes.
because it is the same conversation over and over and over again.
It's very difficult to figure out because like knowing now the thing about the timeline shit, going back and rewatching the entire show is like a huge like, oh, that's what the fuck's going on here type moment. Even though they did that in part whatever, who gives a shit? And they legitimately gave you some answers as to it, and they gave you a little bit of a look into it. You're like, wait a minute, there's more to it though, because there's all these moments where like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Or they just have a lapse of like a second of what was I doing? Right, I was going this way. That then you'd be like, that's what happened there. This is happening at this point in time. He's doing this thing right now here for whatever. And I'm like, that's kind of cool, but at the same time, it is difficult because you're like, so what's real, what's reality, what's made up at certain points when it's just toward the end here specifically, there's a bunch of shit like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah. Well, and so
I get the frustration and I get the need to have answers, but at the same time, I'm cool without the answers. If that's something that some people want answers to, like, why is this the way it is? Because it's nice.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest gripe with it is that they've already established in the initial scene with Eren and Zeke when they're in the past, and Zeke's basically like, I'm going to show you that you've been causing this from the start. And it's that whole sequence where like he goes back and tells his dad, like, fucking do it, kill those kids. And like his dad sees him and Zeke standing behind younger Eren and like has the face of like the, oh fuck, right? Like they've already established that they have the ability because he has the founding titan within him when he inherited it from his dad. Not only the attack titan, but the founding titan. He has the ability and to see everything that's happened in past and future. Every single point he constantly sees in present time. So that coupled with the fact that he can also connect everyone through the paths, right? All the Eldians, we established that as well. Why wouldn't they use those two things and have the connections be real events that took place in each season? Like show scenes of Eren and Armin going out together and then them in present time talking about having the same conversation. Why does it have to be these made up areas that he read in the book? Again, I get it. The symbolism of reading the book that basically opened his eyes to the fact that there's a bigger world out there and he got to experience it all at once, right? By sending thousands of titans.
The easy answer of why did they do it this way instead of what you said? Because that's what the writer chose.
But you can say that about everything. Okay, and then
because that's the truth. The creator chose this way.
Okay,
that's for things like that. That's the only answer you can get from me because I don't have the answers. Why did this have the way it did?
I'm not looking at an answer from you.
But-
I'm not saying
But
you are...
but that's not even for me. That's from everybody, because you could ask it to any of the fans and like, why do you do it this way? Well,
But
the truth
But doesn't that
is
frustrate?
the writer made it.
Isn't that frustrating at all? Like that's my response to some people. Like
For me,
isn't
no.
that-
Only
Okay.
because for me, I'm someone I like writing. I host several games of D&D. All I do is write, basically. And I've come to appreciate, especially listening to books, reading books, seeing interviews with authors and their perspective on things. I have the same perspective of, this is their story. They're writing it and they're sharing it with everybody to see if they like it. If they don't like it, that's fine. If they have criticism, great. But the other thing is, this is my story to tell. You can make your own story to tell as well. You can spin off of it. You can change it in a different direction. It's how you take it and just understand, hey, that's their story. And I get it. That's not an answer anyone likes, but the reason why this happened with Deku or whatever, the writer chose it. The reason why this happened with Eren, the writer chose it. The reason why everyone died in the fucking Black Cats Guild and Sword Art Online, the writer chose it. He's a bastard for it. That's better.
Listen, creative choice aside, I don't think it defeats the fact that they had the literal elements. The author already created and established these rules in this universe. So why go away from that and deviate from that piece to create an alternate reality version of Eren and Mikasa just chillaxing at a cabin waiting out Eren's last 4 years, right? To be like this, like, oh, you know what? We could have had this. If I went this different direction when we were in Marley, we could have had this future. And I hope you know that I still do care about you, but I have to do this. I had to go the other direction. I had to start the rumbling, okay? That's all fine and well. But why couldn't you just do that by using the scene of them literally in fucking Marley and have it be a conversation with Mikasa and Eren being like, this was the point at which we could have deviated. We could have had a happy life together. And that is what I wanted. But for the sake of humanity and the sake for the future of this world, I had to go this way and I had to commit these atrocities. It was for the best. It was the best case scenario. And on that piece too, they do not whatsoever establish the fact that this is the reason why Eren had to do the rumbling, right? That he had to do the rumbling because literally, again, all implied, not very clear, this was the best case scenario versus all of the alternate potentials out there. Like that whole conversation with Armin where he's like, I ran through every single permutation of what could happen from past to future. It was going to happen no matter what. But my timeline, me being the founding titan, starting the rumbling, that was the literal best case. Killing 80% of humanity, that was the best outcome possible. And I hope you realize this.
So
I was gonna say, while we're on the topic of like best possible endings and whatnot, Lobo, do you want to just real quickly, briefly go over the difference between the ending of the anime and the ending of the manga? Because like,
yes, please.
His decision
this
is ultimately semi-different in the two. It's very slight, but it's major.
It's been a while. I haven't gone back to read it. So real quick, I fell off of the of the manga back when
Egad.
it was when Gabby went and
Shot
on the
blew
chef.
off fucking Titan,
Nope.
went on a fucking bird in the middle of the
That was-
sky.
God, that was
pretty badass.
That was
Pretty
it
badass.
was, it was
But-
minus like minus the fan service. I was like, this is just High School of the Dead. This is just a scene straight out of High School of the Dead.
When Gabby got to the restaurant with that village family,
Mhm.
whatever, and
yeah.
revealed that she's the one that killed Sasha, that is where I ended on the. It's like a little bit after that, around that area with the manga.
Yeah. So like, part
And I
one
just
of
fell
season
off.
4.
I fell off. I was just like, oh, I can't afford to keep getting this at the time. So
Okay, I
One
do know the
time
difference. If you want me to just discuss it,
I would like that. I just want to explain this real quick. I got through that part, and then I fell off, and I'm like, "Fuck!" It ended. The news came out. It ended. Final chapter's out. I'm like, "Well, I might as well read the last bit of it." That was when it came out, and I was like, always, like, I'll go back and I'll read it. I'll go back and I'll read it before the ending of the anime. Again, I forgot. Busy at work. Anyway, I remember a little bit of it. I think you'll have more of the answers though. But the main thing I remember is at the credits part, the timeline of events was very different.
Yes, and that is the only difference to my knowledge because I have not read it. Talking to Stale earlier, he kind of broke it down in which in the ending credits of the anime, you see like it focuses on Aaron's gravestone and like years go by, the tree grows bigger, the city expands, technology increases, etc., etc. And it isn't until like hundreds, if not thousands of years into the future that bombs start dropping on what is the modern day paradis or paradise. I don't know, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
So basically it's implying that no matter what Aaron did, there was still going to be war, but at least it wasn't until about 1,000 maybe years later that the bombs and nukes actually destroyed the city. The manga, however, is end credits, here's the gravestone, 60 years later, not even one generation later, bombs strike. So the implication of Aaron actually doing all these things for best possible outcome didn't fucking matter because war progressed even faster in the manga than it did in the anime to where everything was wiped out after 60, 70 years compared to hundreds, if not 1,000 years into the future. So I know that this was a decision that was made by the author to change it in the anime.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's one of those things, like, if he was rushing the ending, it's like, okay, this is just like, if he was rushing the ending of the manga, it's like, okay, this is like, hey, if I had to go back and fix one thing about it, I would like for his actions to be a bit more worthwhile.
I think my opinion on it is that I think he wanted to see the reaction of the audience for his
trolling.
Two different options
Good God.
of how things played out. Like, think of it like a video game. Like, here's the good ending, here's the bad ending. We got the good ending for the anime. We got the real good ending. Manga users, they got the bad ending.
Can I throw a wrench in that real quick?
Sure. Fuck it.
Were you at all... Did you... Because I gave a literal, like an audible what the fuck at the end when Frank and I were watching.
Oh.
The very end.
Yeah,
which is
I forgot about to mention this.
Yes, the symbolic person entering the tree that looked, weirdly similar to the one that Ymir entered, where she found the Titan power. And Aaron was buried there, the last person to have the founding Titan, even though he got rid of the Titan lineage?
Do you want to hear the Ragnarok theory?
Of course, yeah. Any theories?
So the Ragnarok theory happened when Sasha died. Even a little bit before then, because a lot of the story had Norse mythology vibes to certain aspects of it, especially with Titans being the giants, the guys in paradise being the Aesir, and everyone else is just fucking humans or whatever. Who cares? But
I'm human.
But the Ragnarok theory is that, for anyone who doesn't know Norse mythology, Ragnarok happens. Does not stop. You cannot stop it. You can try to prolong it. You will indefinitely, though, or more than likely, instead of postpone it, you will expedite it. The Ragnarok theory is the fact that Ragnarok will always come. Odin's dead, Thor's dead, blah, blah, blah. All of them are dead already. Their children don't die. The entire pantheon never gets wiped out. Just a good chunk of them get, called, and then they just move on with their lives, and then eventually it'll happen again. That's a Ragnarok theory in Norse mythology. Or that's Ragnarok in Norse mythology. It just keeps going. It doesn't end. There is a cycle. In this, it's the same theory that no matter what, it will happen again. That's just how it is. And the whole reason why they attribute it to Ragnarok in Norse mythology is because Ragnarok starts when the most loved being, or god or human, in this case it's human, dies. Balder was the most loved and cannot be harmed except for one thing. If anyone plays God of War, they know what that is. And in this, the one most loved was Sasha, because she was kind of the more pure one. Even throughout all the horror, she still had this energy to her. She was still made everyone feel at ease. She was the core of the group. Everyone loved her. There was no, maybe except for drill sergeant, but everyone had some connection to her in some way. However, once that's gone, that's just like all hell's gonna break loose. All the seams are gonna come apart. Blah blah blah. And then talking about the paths and that area and the tree, that in the theory was that's Yggdrasil. That's the tree of life and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it made a lot of sense with what's going on with the paths. When I saw that, when they explained everything going on, I'm like, fuck, the theory is like legit. There's a lot of stuff in here that's like, that works. And then, of course, if we go straight to the ending, manga version didn't make sense for that. Anime version did. Only because
They
Ragnarok
prolonged it about
happening,
1,000
it was
years.
rumbling. And then 60 years or whatever years later for the manga, it's just like, that doesn't work with the Ragnarok theory. Anime does. They prolonged it, or they went through Ragnarok, they kept going with life. Ragnarok's going to happen again soon. And that's what that showed of like, there's this, another 1,000 years or whatever, back at it, another rumbling, another whatever.
So I just had a funny thought, just because my brain just works in mysterious ways. We're in the future, they're at war, this is right before they're nuked and everything. How, like, I wonder if that history of, like, the stories of Titans and everything else, since, like, nothing was nuked up until that point, if it had been passed down, and people look at these things like we look at dragons, like, no, there's no fucking possible way that dinosaurs and dragons and whatever,
even
like,
better
was
though,
a thing.
I would think it'd be like flat earthers or and people who see like dinosaurs don't exist. I think it'd be so hysterical. There's people just like, nah, Titans didn't exist.
This didn't happen. What is this?
That didn't happen.
This is fabricated.
And they're the minority of like, you guys are fucking idiots. You don't know history. I think it'd be fucking hysterical.
I just had that stupid thought. But I know, Tyler, you and I, we had another kind of question/conundrum with the plot and how everything unfolded. And that had to do with, and Lobo, you might be able to shed some light on it. And I think this was probably our biggest gripe, other than the paths and bringing everybody in and having a fun kumbaya story time of like, here's the apocalypse, sorry. And that was Ymir the worm. Just why? What? Like it? Like
yeah, that was a weird thing, isn't it?
Like it wasn't that it was just a weird thing, but it was just like, it was at one point, like, it started like spewing mist and bringing people into their control, and then the next second it's just dead.
Well, I mean,
so
even before that though, I had an issue with all of the subjects of Ymir coming out of Eren, like all the the prior versions of the Beast Titan and the Armor Titan and the car, like all of them,
the
right?
9. Oh,
right.
That was so cool.
Yeah, like that was cool to see. Like you could understand, right? Because of the paths, they're all connected. Ymir is the literal creation point. She is the seed that started it all from the beginning, right? So it makes sense. Like everyone flows from Ymir. They're all the Eldians come from the Ymir bloodline, so that she can bring back these and effectively like reincarnate them soullessly to her bidding. How the fuck does everyone on the side of Armin break away from her control and just like, yeah, no, we're gonna fight against them now? Like, how the fuck do they do that? Just because Armin picks up a leaf that's horribly fucking CG'd from a sand? Like that made no sense to me. The part where Zeke's literal body comes out of Aaron, and he has that
The
whole speech,
skeleton.
which people could. I went on Twitter afterwards, or X, or whatever the fuck, and people were gushing about that. They're like, "Oh, they captured this scene so perfectly." They're like, "Oh, there should have been like." It should have been a clearer sky, or like they should have focused more on the scenery, but what an awesome scene. And meanwhile, I'm just like, I fucking laughed my ass off when Levi came soaring out of the sky and just decapitated him. And then they just cut to the next scene like nothing happened. That was funny as shit. I was, throughout that whole thing though, extremely frustrated because I'm like, how did they get out of her control? Literally, they're all dead. They're dead.
So for that, in this, for Zeke, it makes more sense. It is more plausible. It's an answer that I think everyone can agree with to some degree. Just because she has control over, or she is the link through the bloodlines of the Titans and the Eldians and all that crap. That doesn't mean she has full control. It's more so that the ways it happened with Zeke was, if you recall, he was just taken over. He was taken for this fucking ride.
No, Zeke gave up on life. That makes sense. That makes sense how he came out.
His sense of will.
No. He's
playing in the
we get
sand
it.
with his mouth. He's like,
no, like he
legit gave up. He lost his will. He lost his will to fight and to he just gave into it.
That makes sense.
Armin was at the brink, and we saw that. And I think something clicked with him. He's like, no, fuck that. So it's easy for him to like sway Zeke by talking to him, having that conversation, and Zeke kind of being like, you know what, fuck it. Yeah, let's fight against it. The other ones, I'm gonna just, I don't know truly.
I think it would
be
it.
To use.
Don't you fucking say it. Don't you fucking say it.
That's always the first answer. But my opinion is, I think it was that because of how it is with the timelines and, like you were saying, just connected past and present, all that crap, and future. I think it was just that even there, they still have some connection and some sense of consciousness to where they understand, like, no, we're not going to do this.
So
there's no answer truly. Like, you can ask people for their opinions. What do you think about this? How do you interpret it? But there's no answer. And honestly, I don't think there was meant to really be an answer for it. And you could have your theories, and that's about it. Because the other thing is, we still don't know anything about this. Like, we know more about Titans in general, or the 9 Titans, more than this, which was given to us this season. And we spent, like, 5 scenes there? We don't know anything about this area. All we know is it's Ymir's domain. That's it.
And I get it. Again, I understand that. I think the piece that irks me the most is that the portions, I will push aside the piece where Aaron goes back to talk to Armin and Mikasa. That part aside, this sequence specifically, the reason why I'm getting so hung up on it is because it plays a critical role in how everything plays out. Like, literally, I'm like, oh, they're fucked. Like, something else is gonna have to happen, right? Like, there's gonna be like Aaron somehow comes to Jesus and stops it himself, or like whatever, right? But the fact that it's like, wait a minute, the Titans are fighting against each other. We have a chance, and then they send the fucking useless Jean to go out and do his shit and swing around and get stuck. Yeah, like that plays
he sounded
a
like
huge...
a Muppet.
He did sound like a Muppet.
I mean,
he's kind of a Muppet.
But let's be. It's...
that is such a critical and pivotal point in the battle sequence that changes the whole tide of everything. That it's like I want to understand how it happened. The only theory I can come up with after reading stuff online and again, kind of doing my own connecting of the big crazy board behind me, right, is because Aaron has the founding Titan power, individuals that are either of royal blood or have the founding Titan power have a closer connection to Ymir. And so because of that, that is why Aaron was able to bring in all the Eldians and have the talk of like, hey, FYI, this shit's happening. Deuces. Because he has the ability to control more aspects of the past himself, which is, again, why he was able to free Ymir and escape that one time as well, that was a part of his plan from the beginning. Because he was able to see through all sequences of events, past and future, he knew that he was going to have some sort of fucking control over all of the like Titans, and at some point he probably, again, theory, went back in time before Bertolt died, before all the other fuckers died, and was like, FYI, you're gonna die, but I'm gonna need your help at the end because you're gonna help save humanity, okay? And culminated with Aaron's founding Titan power, they were able to overcome the will of Ymir and go against her. That's the only piece I can get. The other stupid, like, heartfelt theory that I have is because Ymir's whole character is built around this sense of, like, obtaining free will and freedom, and that's a common motif throughout the entirety of these last two parts, is that because Armin had like this sense of like, well, I have the choice to live, I have the choice to dictate my future and what happens next. Like, sure, we're all gonna die, but I want to choose what I'm gonna do before then. And that's when Zeke's like, you know what, you spit some truth, kid. All right, hello world. And then his head flies off. Like
Great
that
moment.
that
Fantastic.
yeah, that would like showed a moment of weakness to Ymir and gave Armin, because like Zeke was talking to some of the dead people and then Armin was talking to some of the dead Titans too. Like that showed that they had the ability to dictate what happens next and how the future, like no one knows what the future holds except for the Aaron and the founding Titan, but they can truly shift things in their favor and mold it into what they want to see using their free will. And that was the moment of weakness for Ymir, and that was when they were able to fight against her power and this and that. Those are the only two theories I can come up with. Again, the reason I have to do that and do all this fucking research and connect the dots on my crazy board is because it is an important part, and I want to make sense of it.
You want a third theory?
Go for it.
Power of friendship, buddy.
Nope. This ain't the goddamn Sesame Street.
I think that kind of ties to theory
It does
too.
tie into
Little
theory
bit.
too. It's a little bit of
Little
theory
bit.
too.
A little bit, but like it's more straightforward. It's you said a lot of fucking words, and I was just like,
No,
yeah.
I mean,
it's just
I like both the theories, and the first one seems most plausible. It's just that
yeah.
it was more. We're not going to show or tell. But
Yeah, the fact that you had to do that much research and inference.
But
is
I
just
feel like I never got hung up on that, only because to me it felt more like she's bringing these guys all in, and if I feel like what the scene really needed would have been, who did it show? It showed the guys that all of those characters had a connection with.
Right.
I feel like what would have been really better would be if the entire area was full of people and they didn't know any of those motherfuckers, because it's all of them at that moment right there, and then they're like, to show that all of them are there, she's using them all, but they have to be there, so it means they have to have their conscience there. So that means Aaron can probably convince the ones he knows at least to help out, and kind of expand that scene in general.
Right.
And even if it doesn't give you the answers, if it's still played the same way, the fact that all those fuckers are there, it'll make you think, okay, they're all there right now. He just needs the help of his friends, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I want to go over.
I think that might have been like an option for creating it, but it's just like, you know, fuck it, let's just have this nice scenery.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the scenery, like someone said, instead of just all the horribleness. But I love the head flying. It's my favorite part of the entire episode.
It's pretty good.
So I want to bring up two things real quick about season 4, and then we can kind of go into our final thoughts, scoring
our
of
final
the special. Sorry, final thoughts of the special, and then we can go into season 4 as a whole, get our gripes out with that, and then series as a whole.
Yeah,
but the last two things
you gotta be specific. We're the final thoughts of the final season of the final chapter of the final of the final.
Final.
Hey, I agree with him. I didn't thought I'd say this. I agree with him.
Yeah.
You gotta be specific.
You gotta be very.
For the final special that just aired on Saturday, 11/4 at 7 p.m. Central. Two things. One is just kind of funny, that just realization to me. when everybody put their heads to it at the very end, they're like, "We got to take down Armin, or not? Yeah, not Armin. We got to take down.
Yeah,
right.
fuck Armin. Let's kick his
Armin.
ass.
The little bastard, he killed Aaron.
Yeah, no. When they were all like, "We got to take down Aaron before the giant bug worm alien worm thing infests," they really fucking did it quick. They're like, "Cool, we got to do this." Blows teeth open. Mikasa goes in. Decapitation. Like, that legit happens in like 2 minutes. If that.
Don't forget the weird fucking animation transition of her like going in like a badass and then her going before she decapitates him and Aaron just being like
He looked like he was like he looked like he was sleeping in a hospital bed peeing his pants.
No, he had the look of like he just finished deucing after holding it in, and it's like I'm ready to leave now. And
I just thought that
you guys are ruining such a beautiful scene. I fucking hate you.
I just thought that whole sequence of how quick it was really just
when I put this up on YouTube, I'm gonna splice the sequence of her going through the rocks like a badass, and then her just going, nah. It looked fucking bad.
But in general, I think that the fact that they were like, "We got to take him down," and then the time to actually take him down was so fucking quick was a little comical.
Well, no, I mean, like they
I agree it was quick because I feel like I blinked and it happened. I was like,
yeah.
Didn't she just break the teeth? Didn't they just break the teeth? How is she holding the head already? How did this? Yeah. Let me rewind it. Let me make sure. It was quick. Was it quick?
She almost fell. I guess she was falling. She almost outfell a missile. like what the missile that Levi launches to break open his teeth. She legit was like at the same speed as it. So, and then everything slows down for her to make that face at Aaron before she slices his head off.
So I wanted to bring up that because it was funny. We're running out of time, so I'm moving this along.
Yeah.
But the thing that I still am to this day very confused and befuddled about is the whole Ymir worm dying thing. Like, it was there, and then just because Aaron dies, she dies? Like, is that how that works?
It was only because Ymir gave up.
So after 2,000 years, she's just gonna give up?
So
Ymir and Aaron and that thing were connected. Aaron got decapitated. She saw what she wanted. The entire thing with her storyline was that she was in love with the king, even though he mistreated and abused her and all that bullshit. And what Aaron did to Mikasa was exactly what the king did to Ymir. And Mikasa being able to be with him at the end, even though he was dead, had to make that sacrifice to kill him. She saw what she needed. She saw what true, what actual love is in someone that she felt like she connected with. It's with someone that went through the same shit that she kind of went through. So when she saw like she can still love him, and even if it meant all that, she's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm done with this. And she ended it.
All of that? Whew, over my head.
So
none of it.
I had to do research again to connect everything because a comment is made when Aaron is talking to Armin that the reason why everything stops with Ymir is because of Mikasa. Because Armin's like, it's because of you, right? Like, you stopped the rumbling. And Aaron's like, no, it's Mikasa. And Armin's like, Mikasa? He's like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, yeah, what the fuck? Why Mikasa? Here's the connection. Mikasa's an Ackerman. Ackermans are connected to the royal family because they basically were their bodyguards. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's why when Aaron has the founding titan and gets the connections with Historia and then Zeke, like her headaches get like worse and worse and worse, right? That's part of it, is because part of it is the Ackerman piece. The other part of it is that, yeah, like basically the whole time Aaron's just been controlling her, right? And I can basically make you do whatever you want because you're in love with me and I'm going to use that to my advantage. Again, he knows everything that's going to happen, so this was all part of his plan. So, and that was the whole thing with like the whole time Mikasa's like heading towards Aaron and the thought of like having to kill him. She's like, oh my God, my head. Oh my God, my head. And Levi's like, pull it together. he just stop simping. Like, this is bullshit. He's a giant skeleton monster thing. Like, what the fuck? How do you find that attractive? Whatever.
Bone,
Don't
any
kink
bone.
shame.
Nah,
Don't kink shame.
is that a kink? All right, look it
I don't
up.
know. Once.
The reason why I was laughing though is that Aaron had the ultimate headache at the end of this.
He really, really did. But
Anyways,
that is that whole scene at the end where Mikasa's holding Armin. I almost said Armin because of you. Fucker.
Why do you want Armin dead so much? What's
He's
wrong
annoying.
with you?
He's a little bastard.
Armin and Aaron are really close together. They really are.
They got really close together in that last sequence.
Yeah.
Man, that was some Frodo Sam shit. That was some Frodo Sam shit.
Where we scrolled down to the comments, like we scrolled to 3 comments down, and they're like,
Bro,
man,
I thought they were gonna
swear
kiss.
Aaron and Armin were gonna make out. We're like, when the fuck? And then like 10 minutes later, it happens. We're like, oh fuck.
Oh.
The worst part was Armin. He had that lip quiver thing going like, dude, what are you doing?
Oh, it's so
I
bad.
came over the parodies of him like going in and Aaron be like, the fuck, bro?
Yeah,
You
what's
know
bros?
that's gonna be fan serviced out the wall
yeah.
fucking zoo. Like,
Oh
god.
But yeah, that was
We're
the whole
gonna
piece.
burn in hell for all eternity. Might as well bang.
That was the whole piece
Yeah.
with Ymir at the end, watching over Mikasa as she's kissing Aaron's decapitated head. Was like, that was the part where Mikasa's like, I can finally free myself from him. Like, I can sever the bonds and connection to him. I finally can come to peace with the fact that yes, this had to be done. I'm not bound to him. This was for the best. And I finally have obtained free will. Like I think it's a coming of like terms to the fact that she was basically under his spell. Like he had full control over her. She had no autonomy over any of her decision making. It was all dictated by him up until that very point, which is why I think she kind of like, she smiles at him, and then he's just like, yeah, this is. I'm so happy that you're not like crying, right? Because like the whole time up to that, she's crying. She's like, no. She's like, I've got a splitting headache. Can we do this another time? I just need some Excedrin, lie down. I just want to take a nap. And then when she finally goes in, she's got like this, it's almost like a smile of exhaustion. Like, Jesus Christ, I'm finally done with this. And that was that whole part with Ymir and why she's looking over.
My stupid theory was that, you kill the King Titan or whatever the fuck it was once and it's dead. And that's why every time they had a ceremony for the transference of that Titan. Because it was so important. That was my
The founding
theory.
Titan, you mean?
The founding Titan, yes.
Yeah.
That was my theory, is that because, like, if the founding Titan dies, every Titan dies. So that's why they always had the ceremonies, but then that's just disproven there. So it's fine. Overall thoughts of the special. Who wants to start? If anybody. If nobody,
I'll start.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just talking about this one that just came out this week.
Specifically,
yes, on
Attack on
11/4
Titan
at 7 p.m. Central.
Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter, part 2. Not to be confused with Attack on Titan, the final season, part 2.
Hate that.
But it's the Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter, part 2. Go for it.
That angers me.
I know. I'm hoping that's going to sway your opinion.
This final part. I truly enjoyed it. There was a part where I was like, fuck this. This is stupid. I don't get it anymore. I thought I had it. And then it all made sense at the very end. I'm like, cool. Basically, when the thing turned all the Eldians into Titans at the last minute or whatever, and everything's happening, blah, blah, blah. I was not down with that. Everyone turning, like, what's the fucking point then? What's the fucking point? And then decapitation, they all turn back. Titan curse is gone. Cool. Awesome. Love it. I truly loved it. I was okay with all of it up until towards the end and everything's happening and they're finally getting momentum and they're winning. Then they lose a little bit and they win some more. And then the ending was legitimately all I needed. That was the perfect way to end this entire saga of Attack on Titan. It was a perfect ending for the show that it was, only because of how controversial it has always been in certain regards and with specific seasons and such. The ending for the anime is by far better than the manga, in my opinion. I truly love that it is the Ragnarok theory, that it is just a cycle that cannot be broken, and that Aaron's entire thing was, I don't want to break the cycle. I want to save my friends. That's it.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Magically average.
I think looking at it from a very high level view, I would say it was acceptable. I do not like the fact that I had to make all these connections. I don't like the fact that a lot of these pivotal moments are just sort of there with little to no explanation or presentation or nothing to really give it any purposeful meaning other than just, hey, this is here as a placeholder because there was nothing better for us to put there. And again, like whether it was a writing decision or a directing decision or whatever, it definitely impacts the entirety of the ending and its meaning and purpose. Getting more nitpicky, I thought the sound design was bad. I thought the weird like transitionary animation styles was so jarring that it got really like annoying at times. Like again, this is very nitpicky of me, and I understand it's Mappa and they've been doing a lot and whatever other excuses, whatever. But in terms of like a watchability, it just kind of looked gross at times. Yeah, it was cool. I want to make one point though that was mentioned before and that everyone screams about and cheers about online. The author is not big brain. The author is the author, and they know what's happening because they're the ones fucking writing it. So when people like come like cream their pants because they're like, "Oh my god, watch these sequence scenes again. Like that's and you when he goes back in history and he talks to his dad, like whoa." And I'm like, bro, he wrote it. Like yeah, like what the fuck do you mean? Like it's a twist.
Yeah,
Congratulations for
I agree
figuring
with
that
that.
out. Like that part always frustrated me because people use that as like a crutch for the reasoning behind like, oh, this is why it's like it's so fucking you don't even understand it. There's so many layers to it. And I'm like, yes, I get it. That is such a really cool twist. And I even admitted that like season 4, part 1 was a really good part outside of those first couple episodes when they start in the middle of a war and nothing made sense. Like when they finally get into like the history, more of the Titan history and stuff and the founding Titan and the paths and the royal bloodline, like that's
part 2.
really.
Part 2.
Is that part
That's
2?
part 2.
Okay, never
Yeah.
mind. Fuck
Part
season 4.
Part 1 was
one.
the war, and then political bullshit. Part 2
Okay, yeah.
was
So fuck
the
all
war,
of
political bullshit, and then camping.
yeah. Fuck all of part 1 then.
Yay!
Beginning of part 2. But that is what made me interested in Attack on Titan. And so I'm gonna break away from the sequence of events real quick, Frank. I'm sorry, I know, but this ties in well. So my overall rating of the final part is probably like if I'm gonna be real, like a 5.5, maybe a 6. Okay. Overall of the anime, I would say 7.5. It's average, it's mid, but I want to connect it, okay? Because the reason why I like season 4 part 2 so much, and the reason why I love the history and the lore of the Titans is because the first season made you want to know more. There was so much mystery, there were so many unanswered questions. It just kept you wanting to know and learn more. Where are they? What are the Titans? How are they created? Where are they coming from? What's the reason behind having these walls? Like, I wanted to know everything. And it took so long and it took so many just years of waiting for me to still have an infinitely atrocious amount of questions left unanswered that I couldn't get a true closure ending in this final chapter, final part, final whatever. That is big to me. I if you're closing a book, when I read the final pages of a book, I want to feel that I've accomplished something in what I've read and what I've learned. Like I need a sense of like I'm able to finish this, put it on the shelf and be at ease with what I've just gone through. And I can't do that with Attack on Titan. It's going to sit on this shelf and I'm just going to stare at it and be like, you motherfucker. I know there's more secrets in you. Just you wait, I'll find them. And I know I'm never going to find them.
At the end of the day, because Ymir is a space worm, aliens. My opinion for the final season, the final part 2. I would after research, 5.5. Before just gut feeling after the episode, before I knew what the fuck was actually going on, it was a 4. I have a lot of the same complaints you did in Magically Average, in the fact that there was so much that wasn't ascertainable through what I viewed as as a person who watches it week to week. I'm not going to go, I watch a lot and I'm a busy person and I have a lot of hobbies. I'm not going to go back and rewatch this series 5 times to understand the minute details of every little thing in order to understand the minute details of every little thing for the last part. The fact that it's been since what? April? Since part 1 came out? And now we're
March.
here, and it's just like the fact that it's just like, what the fuck is going on again, other than the rumbling? Like, what is up with these Titans? Who are some of these characters? What's going on here? Like, I think that the release of this, and being a casual Attack on Titan fan, it really dulled it down for me. It was a 4 because there were so many things that left me scratching my head. After all the research, after all, the explanations via talking to other people, it's a 5.5. But that's only because I enjoy the actual story, but it is such a workaround to actually understand everything. It is so disjointed and so rushed that it just doesn't feel fulfilling. And that's my take on the second special. But season 4 as a whole, all of us are upset. From the start of it in 2021 till now, it's been 3 years, essentially, for this whole entire thing to come out. This has pissed everybody off, except for the diehard hardcore fans who own every book, can reread it, and be like, I can't wait. Oh boy, I know this story inside out, hey?
Are there actually people who didn't have an issue with this fucking release? I'd be shocked.
I'm sure you talk to the most hardcore fans. I'm sure they're like, yeah, because it was perfection. Like, I'm sure they were fine with it. This release was awful. Season 4 as a whole is the weakest one because the release of it just made me forget everything that had happened already. But also in the fact that you had such high moments in season 4 part 1, and then the second half was so dense of just like, here's this person, he's important here, there's this political party, there's this political party, there's a spin-off of this political party, there's a spin-off. Like, who the fuck cares? At the very end of this, it didn't fucking matter at all. None of it mattered.
I'll have you know that one clan had their boat exploded when that falcon bird fuck had finally got his power. So there.
Regardless, to me, season 4 really killed a lot of the momentum that the entirety of the series had. So to me, season 4 is getting a 4 out of 10.
Oh wow!
The whole season. Because there are some really high highs, but there are fucking low lows as well in this season. So that's my opinion of season 4 overall. Lobo, what about you?
Ooh, I had a number. Thinking about it, it's a 5, hard 5 right there. Only because of the release. Legitimately, only because of the release. If it wasn't for that, it'd probably be a 7 for me. Because, if you boil it down for someone who, I have a friend who knows about it, heard about the release of it, like, fuck that, I'm not watching it till it's all out. So last week it must have been a fucking time. Uh, God. But if you just consumed it like that, if you watched all of it like that, that's probably pretty fucking decent. In regards to like, you just binge through it, you don't have all that gap, you remember everything great. Even with all that, I think it's a 7. There's a lot of complaints with it. There's a lot of issues of pacing. I think in part 2.
Yep.
Both of them, basically.
Both of them
Part 2,
really.
I felt like was the worst, though. It just expedition. I don't need
agree.
it. But I think the only reason I'm giving it 5 is because of that. There's some really badass moments in each part, but it's just fucked over because of how much time is between those from happening, even with the fucking delay in releases. You got all that exposition that kind of, it's explaining a lot, and it's also explaining a lot of nothing. I'm sure the political standing in Paradise is interesting to someone's, but not me. I don't think we needed any of that. Focus on what's going on with those fucking psycho bastards a little bit, and then let's go on to the fact that they're the bad guys.
All that
That's
set up was like a 2-second explanation at the end that, hey, Parody or Paradise is controlled by the Jaegers at the very, very end. That's it. Like, that's all we got from all that political shenanigans in season 4, part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think Tyler or Magically Average, you still with
Yeah,
us, but
I'm
we
still
can't
here.
see you. Yeah, I know. We can't see you, but I mean, give us your rating of season 4 as a whole.
My camera died because I was talking about this still. I think season 4 as a whole, release schedule aside, because I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt there and just say, you know, whether it's production or timing for releases or whatever, you know, whatever, we'll let that slide. I would still grade season 4 like, oh god, overall maybe a 5, 4.5. It's just the pieces that get me the most are, you start off with no connection to season 3. You start off in another realm, like another part of the world with different people, and it's like the immediate reaction is, hey, you have to care about these people. And I'm like, why? For what reason? What purpose? They're like, well, just wait. You'll understand. I'm like, okay. And then I waited, and I still don't care about the fuckers. Like, none of those characters mean anything to me, even at the end of part 4. Like, they sure, Gabby shot off Aaron's head. Could it have been literally anyone else? It could have been the one random kid that gets stomped by the Titan in the last part of the season 4 part 3, the final chapter part 1, whatever. Like, it could have been that kid that shot him, for all I care. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, did it matter that Gabby was also the one that shot Sasha? No. Does it matter that Falco or whatever his name is a crybaby little bitch and has to become a Titan? No. Like, I don't care. I don't give a shit. You want to know what I cared about the most? Learning about the goddamn Titans, which was what all of season 3 was. There was an infinite amount of knowledge just poured into season 3 in terms of like the history of the Titans, like how the Titans were created, how that there's 9 Titans that we finally can establish that there's 9 of them. Like, these are why these are special Titans. We understand the difference between those Titans and the abnormal Titans, right? We get to hear about the blood, like the royal bloodline and their relation to the Titans and how it could, you know, that interaction could impact the entire world. Like, that is what we've wanted since season 1. And then what do? You start with a fucking war that means nothing to anyone and go, by the way, Aaron's somehow there. He looks like a homeless cripple. He's going to get his head shot off. He's going to team up with Zeke. Shit's going to happen, and then the Rumble is going to start. Oh, by the way, they go camping for like 4 episodes or whatever, too. But, you know, just skip that. Like,
So, just to chime in here, season 3, if I recall, ended with reading Dad's journal and seeing the flashback of what happened with his life, correct?
It does a panning shot to his desk at the house.
So that's how season 3 ended, and that's like, hey, idiots. there's a whole world out there. I'm like, oh fuck, okay.
Neat.
I agree with you that I didn't like how season 4, the final season starts, but that's legitimately this really dumb way to just be like, hey, we're gonna introduce you to the bad guys from the finale of season 3. It's not done well, in my opinion. I feel like it's so just out of nowhere, batshit. Like, we're gonna force you guys to like it, and I didn't really like it. However, I never felt like I was supposed to like any of those characters. I didn't feel like I was supposed to even give a shit about any of them. It wasn't until I actually did kind of give a shit, and honestly, I don't give a shit about Gabby. I don't give a fuck that she fucking shot off that one Titan's head or whatever, and that
360 no scope on a dragon.
she's reunited with whatever his name,
Treyu and
Falcon.
Falco. Treyu.
I do not give a shit about Gabby. I give a shit about Falco. I gave a shit about the cart Titan, and even the kid's, was it brother or his cousin that he fucking killed because he drank that whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a shit about him. He was a good dude. A lot of those guys who died right there, I kind of gave a shit about that were Marlians. Other than that, I didn't give a shit about none of them.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're meant to really give a shit. It was just a really stupid way to start the season. I think there's a billion other versions you could start off with to make it not so jarring.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could piggyback off that, but I'm not because we are really out of time. Series as a whole, it's finally over. What do we rate it? In my opinion, season 4 has, like, seasons 1, 2, and 3 were phenomenal in my opinion. They were between 8s and 9s. They were 8s and 9s for me. Season 4 really dragged this through the mud. In my opinion, the entirety of the series is probably a 7.5, if that. That is being very generous. It is probably closer. It should be closer to a 6.5. But because I think of the highs and the amazement that seasons 1, 2, and 3 gave us, the plot of it and the pacing of it and how fun it was and how good it was, I think, like, I can't discount that because of season 4 being a stinking pile of garbage. So to me, it's a 7.5.
Yeah, you saying 7.5 is generous, man. Straight up 7 is all I was gonna give it. I consider season 1 to be amazing, perfect. It's a 9. I only give it a 9 because I feel like there's certain parts that are like, eh. But 2 and 3 high up there too. I haven't even thought about like what rating I would give those, but it's not enough to carry this thing up to that same degree of like a really fucking amazing anime to be like 8s and 9s. It's a 7. It's basic at this point, and that's only because of the final season. And that has more to do, I think, with what people's reception might be with it now, in regards of seeing it now as this full story right now, started up, going through it. Even then, the amount of questions would be just piles of them still. Even now, it's always be contentious, and with all of that, it's still a 7.
Yeah.
I would love to give this an 8 or even a 9, but this final season was honestly a stinker. I loved the ending of it. The ending. The last bit of it at the gravestone. It is awesome. Everything else was kind of just fine. It was just okay. Some of it was like really cool, but it wasn't as cool as nearly the entirety of season 1. Season 1 was just fucking dope.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't have to repeat anyone else. I give it a 7 for what everyone else was saying. I mean, season one was the most enjoyable season, I think, of any anime I've watched, in terms of something that's like a full series. I just remember watching it when it came out, blown away by the story, by the lore, by everything that was I could possibly imagine it turning out to be, and what it turned out to be was something of a nightmare to me, because I am left with way too many unanswered questions for me to feel satisfied.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, thank you all for joining us this week. Please don't give us a 7. We would greatly appreciate a better rating if you enjoyed the show and enjoyed the Discord. You may not have this opinion, but at least now you know where we're coming from. If you want more content, we are on TikTok, and we will be starting to post a little bit more shorter form on YouTube, so wait and check out that when it comes out. So until next time, Spark Triumph, we'll see you then.